So you've heard Dave Ramsey talking about the baby steps. First of all, here or there they are, right? These are the 7 steps, but we want to talk through exactly how they're implemented in regular families like your family and my family.
Right.
So the baby step number 1 is save $1,000 for your starter emergency fund. It couldn't be more critical that you do this.
Yes.
There will be $1,000 emergency all the time throughout your entire adult life. The AC goes out. You need new tires. Coronavirus, and all of a sudden you're out of work for a few weeks.
Yep.
All the time this will happen. If you only have $50 in your account between you and disaster, you will turn to credit cards every time.
The reason that Murphy's Law, which Dave Ramsey likes to cite all the time, the reason it happens is not because misfortune seeks out the unprepared, although it often feels that way. It's usually because little things become big emergencies. If you don't have $1,000 emergency fund, you'll suddenly find yourself putting money on a credit card. You'll find yourself asking family and friends for loans that you'll probably struggle to pay back and ruin a relationship over. You might have to go down the rabbit hole of payday loans, which just don't. I'm sorry. I don't care how big the emergency is. Do not do that. I think I'd rather sell a kidney on the black market. I'm not kidding. These payday lenders are out to North Korea, destroy you. Yeah. Anyway, this could not be more critical. So how do we do it? Oh. We do this by you have to take what you're spending every month and make it less than how much you're bringing in. Yeah, you just have to.
Yeah. So my family, when we did this for the first time, I read Dave Ramsey's book, The Total Money Makeover, which is awesome. You should read.
My wife and I read that right after we got married. I think we got 2 copies for her.
Yeah, we literally went into our garage and we're like, what are we selling on Craigslist?
Yeah.
And we just sold stuff and we're like, okay, there's now our buffer
there you go.
Between us and the bottom. Okay, number 2 is pay off all debt using the debt snowball except for the mortgage. So the debt snowball is really a emotional momentum that you're gaining against that debt, because when I got out of law school, we had $90,000 of student loan debt. And when you look at that, you're like, oh, I'll just pay the minimum. It's just painful to look at, right? But you look at all of the debts in there, in different chunks, whatever, on your student loan website. And I went in there and I was like, okay, let's go to the smallest one and let's just do that over the next few weeks. And let's get rid of that $1,000 debt. And once you've emotionally gotten off your smallest debt, it helps you emotionally to be able to take on the bigger ones. Now, this isn't mathematically optimized,
right?
Because mathematically, you'd want to take whichever is the highest interest rate. And if you have one thing that's like a credit card or something really bad in there, I think it would make sense to go for it.
And I've even heard him say that on his radio show. I've heard him say, okay, yeah, in your case, tackle that one first.
Yeah. If you had a payday loan,
if you had a payday loan for $500, just pay it off first, right?
Yeah. Or to the IRS, it's like,
yes,
pay it.
Yes, because they can actually garnish your wages and totally throw off the whole rest of the debt snowball.
Yeah.
Now, I will say something about this, because I've had this conversation with people who talk about the math, right? Mm-hmm. And yes, mathematically, highest interest first would be more optimized. But here's the thing. Every individual debt that you pay off decreases your debt obligation for that month, for each month, right? Mm-hmm. So if I pay off a small debt first, and I look at if I add up all my minimum payments due, the total minimum due decreases because one of my debts is gone.
That's true.
So in the case of an emergency, I actually have more margin because I have fewer debts. This is a point that everybody ignores when they talk about the math, but actually having less of a debt obligation each month makes a difference in people's lives, especially if you're anywhere close to living paycheck to paycheck.
Very good point.
There you go.
Save 3 to 6 months of expenses in a fully funded emergency fund. This is one that I live religiously in my family. We do in our business.
Yes.
So we're have our own families and we have a business together that we're partners in. We have a sizable emergency fund in our business. We have
to
people
meet
that
all of our
rely on us.
expenses.
We have employees.
Yep.
And so we have a big old emergency fund there. And then individually in our own families,
Right.
we have emergency funds. I want to, You're probably watching this in the future, but right now is the coronavirus outbreak. It's like, it's not looking so good right now in the markets and in the world right now. And there are a lot of people that have awesome jobs, and suddenly, the boss says, don't come in for the next month. And you're like,
I can't do that to our employees. I just can't do that. But our business is healthy, right?
Yep.
If you're in a company where they are going to do that, which I have personal friends who now don't have anything to do for the next 2 months, and at that point we'll reevaluate and see,
I
right?
can think of a few,
Yeah, and so if you're in that situation, right now that emergency fund is looking really good.
So 3 to 6 months of expenses seems so far out there.
Yeah.
Like if, let's say you're earning $40,000 a year, like there's just not a whole lot of margin left at the end of each month. To think that you're suddenly going to get to 3 to 6 months of expenses can seem pretty daunting. And you're like, I'm going to leave whatever, 40, 50 grand in the bank or wherever protected. He usually says put it in a money market account. That seems crazy until you get there just one time in your life.
Imagine what happens if you don't have that, and now you're laid off from work for 2 or 3 months because of coronavirus. Now what?
My wife and I have never actually dipped into our emergency fund. We haven't. But it is there. And if something happens, and it probably will at some point, we're not going to be freaking out because we had prepared for it.
And when you're not freaking out, it allows you to think about the future. So if something were to happen in our business and our income were to start decreasing, well, we have 3 to 6 months to figure out proactively how we're going to fix that and improve our business before we have to worry about what do we do, right? And so you can actually be more methodical and strategic about what you do going forward.
Invest 15% of your household income in retirement is baby step 4. This one's pretty straightforward. The only nuance here is he's wanting you to not invest in retirement until this point. And I think in the vast majority of cases, that's awesome. I think it makes total sense.
Especially
to get out of debt.
Getting to that point, saving $1,000, if that feels undoable right now, don't invest, right?
But there are situations where I don't know about this all the time. You know, your company's got a match for your retirement, and it's going to take you 5 years to get out of debt. I'm gonna want to take the free money.
That compound interest over the course of your career, it's worth a lot.
So this is one that I struggle with in everyone's situations. I think it makes total sense, but it is one that I struggle with. That I think there are a lot of people that I don't know about.
Yeah, I would say that if you're in a job where you do have some margin and you could pay off your debt and investing a little bit in retirement, like if you have like a 4% match from your employer, put 4% in there, right? Not 15, right? 4. And if that 4% is going to push off paying off your debt more than a year, then okay, maybe not. But for most people, that little bit is not going to make that much of a difference, right? If it would make it so that you literally cannot create an emergency fund, don't invest.
Right. Yeah, I generally like it, but there are some times where I struggle with it. Number 5, save for your children's college fund. This is another one that I struggle with a little bit. My parents paid for 1 semester of college for me. 1 semester, and I was on my own. It was really good for me.
Yep.
I needed that. And so I don't love the idea of, I could easily just write a check today and pay for my kids' college. And so it's not one that I'm stressed about. And maybe if I didn't have that capability, maybe I'd feel differently about this. But like right now, I look at this and sometimes I think like, I'm not sure I'd want to do that anyway.
Right.
And so, okay, you save for it and you don't end up using it. That's fine, unless you put it in
an education fund,
And suddenly it's like, shoot, now it has to go to junior. And actually, I don't think he'd do a great job with this money.
Yep. No, I agree with that actually 100%. My thought for my kids' education is, one, I don't even know if college, if four-year college is going to be the right choice for them at that point in time. It may not. Trade school is a better choice for most people.
If it's
right?
10, 15 years from now, I mean, the way the world is headed.
Right. Even today, I question it for a lot to
And that's, I should say, that's coming from somebody who has an MBA, a master's degree, and I have a Juris Doctorate. Like, we both have advanced degrees.
Right.
And so we value education very highly.
Oh yeah, my wife would be a perpetual student
Yeah.
if she wasn't taking care of kids.
But to me, it's not a guarantee that
No.
everyone should just go to college.
So for me, my mentality is I'm going to be saving up in investments outside of my retirement accounts so that I have money available for multiple reasons, by the way. I don't want the government telling me I have to wait till I'm 59 and a half to be able to have my money back.
Heck no.
And so for that reason, I do a lot of investing outside of retirement accounts. And that investment money, while it might not be as tax optimized, is what I will use if I feel that there's a need to help my children when the time comes. And so just the overall investing I'm doing, I'm treating that as my whole future fund, including my kids' education.
And frankly, I think Dave Ramsey would agree with that.
I think so too.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, pay off your home early.
Step 6.
So both of us own our homes outright.
Yep.
And it's just different.
He is 100% correct.
So right.
The carpet does feel different. It feels better. The grass is better, softer, greener. Except right now, it's kind of wintry and the grass is pretty crappy.
It's coldy. This is a huge one. It's one that a lot of people have problems with mathematically, where they're like, well, I could keep the mortgage and invest the money. And no.
Don't play that
game.
game.
Pay off your freaking house. Get out of debt. And then build wealth and give, which is, of course, awesome.
This is an interesting one because of how it ties into step 5 for me, right? So step 5 was save for your kids' college. And I'm saying my overall wealth building is what's going to help pay for their college. Mm-hmm. So what I would probably do when you get to step 5 is I would start saving a percentage, whatever you want to save, towards your kids' college. And then everything on top of that goes towards step 6, right? And that way you're not putting off investing in your future and being able to potentially help or pay or whatever you feel is right for you to do for your kids. I'm the same way, by the way. My parents did not pay for college. My mom taught me from an early age that if you do well in high school, you can actually get scholarships and stuff. And I did. I had a job, I got scholarships, and one semester I got a Pell Grant. And that paid for my college 100% debt-free.
Guess what? It was good for you.
It was awesome. It was really good for me. So that's how that fits in, I guess, that's step 7. And I do think it's important as well. Build wealth and give. I think there's a lot of just value in finding whatever's the best way that you feel like you can give back to the world. Maybe it's not with loads and loads of money. If you feel like people should build up their own wealth, maybe it's through giving of time, information, education, whatever it is, but find your way of giving back. I think that it makes life just more fun to live, I guess.
The baby steps really are incredible. They've done so much good for so many people. Definitely check out Dave Ramsey's book, The Total Money Makeover. Yep. It's one of the best written books I've ever read. And I just love the things he does. But there are some things that he teaches that, frankly, I disagree with, and I know you disagree with some of the things as well. Reasonable minds can differ on some of this stuff. And so subscribe to this YouTube channel, and you'll see our videos kind of popping up in your feed of some of these discussions that we're having.